And of course, donors who are in our giving circles, which are very, very important. That's from the founders to the presidents to the directors to the Circle of 100. And with the funds that they give to us, that is exactly what we use for all of our programming. And I see some of you in the room who are in those circles. Eleanor, I see you, Diane and Lionel, and I know there's others, and I want to recognize Tampa Bay Magazine because we're thrilled that Margaret Ward Burnside and Erin Fodderman are here. And we have Dean Moy of USF, the College of Art, so we really are on top of it tonight. And I'm going to introduce Catherine Bergman, our curator, who will talk about Dr. and Mrs. Drapkin. One last thing, our architect is in the audience. Rod Coleman and his wife, Cindy Gorshey Coleman. In case you didn't notice that green fence. Who didn't notice the green fence outside? Aha! Well, we are building the West Wing, and our board members are helping us, and John Stewart's on our board, he's here. So anyone has any questions about the new West Wing, just ask, and I'll be delighted to talk to you about it. Now I give you our brilliant and creative curator and director of adult education, Catherine Bergman.
Welcome everybody. I always like to grab this off. Such a treat tonight. We have 4 exhibits opening tonight. One is the kids exhibit, which will have their big extravaganza award ceremony tomorrow. We have our community, local artists call for entries, Saints Alive, very, very cool, love the response. And then we have Encircled in the Douglas Whitley Gallery, which is a collection of modern mandalas, contemporary artists. But of course the highlight tonight is the Drapkin collection, this really intimate collection, and it's very intimate tonight with everybody else smuggled in amongst everything. But it's our honor to that the Drapkins shared this collection with us. We were privileged enough to have shown their selections from their southwestern ancient pottery in the spring of 2011. So this is just another privilege. We don't normally show antiquities, so this is quite a special treat for us. And without further ado, I will welcome Dr. Robert Drapkin to come speak about the pieces. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for coming to see such an esoteric collection of Mayan religious folk art. Because of my wife's import business, I had the opportunity to travel to Guatemala for the last 10 years. And on these trips, we would find interesting and unusual creative artwork. And I've always been impressed with the creativity and the color and the fine art that these indigenous Indians are making and have made throughout their history. The Mayans are alive and well, and they've never really left their homeland. The Spanish conquered them, but their ancient religious beliefs endure. This is a photograph of a religious site. It's out in the highlands of Guatemala, on the top of a small mountain, where many people come to ask favors from their gods. The gods in Guatemala and their ancient beliefs are everywhere. They're in the mountains, they're in the forests, they're in the caves, they're in lakes. And you have to have a contract with these deities in order for your wishes to become true. So you make offerings to them, and you see some whiskey bottles and evidence of burnt chickens, and they're deep in prayer, and they look like average, ordinary Guatemalan citizens. The Maya were really the first with a completely developed written language in the Americas. And for those who might have seen the pottery from the southwest United States and that was on display here, our American Indians did not have a written language. They used symbols which everybody would understand, but they really had no books. They didn't really have developed mathematics. They didn't plot the planets, but the Mayans did. They had complex art, architecture, math, astronomy. They had books. And they reached their peak in their culture around 250 to 900 AD. And they have continued basically under the Spanish rule, to keep their culture alive through a variety of hidden methods, which we will discuss. This is an example of a Mayan temple in Tikal. It is a pyramid. You can climb it, you can get to the top. It's extremely sturdy. It's lasted hundreds of years. This is an example of a Mayan book. It's called a Codex. They read it, I don't have a pointer, but the words start at the left side and go down, and then go back up and down, back up and down. The examples of the Mayan books were really originally gifts from the Spanish conquerors to the kings in Europe, and were hidden in the libraries in Europe. Most of the other books were burnt by the very aggressive bishops, and who were subsequently scolded for having burnt their books and trying to destroy their culture. By the Pope, he was very upset with the bishops that burnt the books. The Mayans overtly, and what you see, and converted to Catholicism. They are spread across Guatemala, southern Mexico, Honduras, and Belize, and even El Salvador. And they practice a religion that is a combination of what appears to be Roman Catholicism, but it is mixed with Mayan deities and cosmology, and what you see, what's apparent is not real. What is real is what they do every day. An example of that would be a church which has, a Catholic church which has services on Sunday, and for the rest of the week, Monday through Saturday, it's actually a Mayan temple where they perform the same type of rituals you saw in the previous image. So the Mayans look Catholic on Sunday, but deep within their hearts, they continue their old practices. And this is not Mayan, but the rest in Honduras, in Guatemala, Belize, southern Mexico, and the Yucatan is Mayan. And they have their cities, their ruins, their pyramids, and their culture persists. They have many different languages. We actually can divide them up based on the languages. So in the Yucatan, they speak Yucateca. In the highlands, they speak Cachiquel and Quiche. And those are some of the major Mayan languages. They're similar, but they're not identical. So when the Spanish missionaries came to Guatemala and to the Mayan areas in Mexico, they saw that the Mayans had symbols, and they tried to integrate their religion, the Catholicism, with the ancient indigenous religions. And they were happy that the Mayans were accepting them, and they did not mind the mixing of the two cultures. And basically when you mix two beliefs into one, it's called syncretism. It's like an amalgam. And what we're going to look at now are examples of how of this amalgam, how ancient Mayan beliefs have infiltrated Catholicism. And the first and important part is the cross in the Mayan religion. It symbolizes the tree of life. The tree of life basically is a model of the world. Heaven, earth, and the underworld. It's a vertical line that unites the three realms, the underworld, the earth, and the heavens. And the tree of life traditionally is pictured by the ceiba tree, which is a very tall, straight tree with branches that reach up into the heavens where the birds are. And its roots reach into the underworld, where bats live there. And so this is a picture of a ceiba tree and a cross. And you can see how they're very closely related. And the Mayans have always used the cross in their ancient religions to symbolize the world tree. Another example of this amalgam is the Church of Mashimon. Mashimon really relates to the ancient Mayan god Mon. And in order to keep him around, the Mayans referred to him as San Simon or Judas Iscariot. In the Mayan, Mashimon always appears as a Spaniard with a Spanish suit, with a mustache, with a hat, a cane, and a cigar in his hand. He is a sinner. His pants are torn from him crawling in the gutters. His suit is dirty. But he is a reformed sinner, and therefore a wonderful person. And he has many churches have Mashimon inside them, and he is a deity that will grant you a wish, but you have to be very careful because the wish you get may have a little bit of a bite to it. This is so in one of the Mashimon churches, there is an actual Mashimon, which we have, by the way, hidden away in our archive. It's life-size. He's dressed in a suit, he has a mustache, he looks like a Spanish gentleman. And when you make a wish, you have to pay some money to the priests. They take some herbs and they cleanse you with the herbs. They blow some smoke to purify you. And then they spit some alcohol on Mashimon, and hopefully your wish will be granted. This is images of this ritual going on. I've actually been to one of the churches and gone to it. It still exists. Now, according to Mashimon, the beliefs of Mashimon, he's carved out of the flowering tree at the center of the world and was infused by the rain gods, all of the powers that they had, at 13 places. So when he came to life, he was the most beautiful being on the planet, both male and female. And he proceeded to have sex with everyone in the community, which angered a lot of people. And so the gods seized him, twisted his neck, broke his arms, put a mask on him, just to limit some of his powers. And so if you look around, you'll see some Mashimons with arms that are broken, shortened, feet that are broken. And that's one way you can portray Mashimon. And the other is they put a mask, they twisted his head around, put a mask on the back of his head. So he's always looking backwards, but appears to be looking forward. And he is very important because he is celebrated during Holy Week. Both Jesus and Mashimon are celebrated together as twins. they're dressed and paraded in certain communities in Guatemala. And the Mayans considered Jesus to be a wonderful human being, a wonderful person, the Son of God. Both of them were sons of God and twins. But Jesus was less masculine than Mashimon. So in order to infuse Jesus with more strength, they put a statue of Mashimon and Jesus together before Easter in the same room. And so Mashimon will give Jesus some of his strength. And you can see one of the figures of Jesus portrayed in the back of the room is very feminine, with beautiful eyelashes and long hair. When Jesus is crucified, and the period prior to the resurrection of Jesus, Mashimon is in charge, according to the Mayans, for a short period of time. When Jesus is resurrected, they put Mashimon back in a house, and you keep him there for the rest of the year. This is a picture of Mashimon dressed as the flowering tree with many scars wrapped around his neck. He's still smoking a cigar, I think. And basically we've covered, this is a picture of Easter in Antigua, with Mashimon being paraded around and then put away for the rest of the year. So Mashimon is one example of the amalgam of the two religions. Another good example is San Pascual, or El Rey San Pascual, who is worshipped as the Lord of the Underworld. He is basically an incarnation of a pre-Columbian death god, God A. And he is referred to as San Pascual, or the Saint Pascual Bailan, who was actually sainted in 16, he's canonized in 1690. But in 1650, San Pascual, the priest, appeared in a vision as a skeleton with a robe in front of one of the Guatemalan Indians, as the story goes. And he said, if you were to make me your community patron saint, I will cure the epidemic of disease that is spreading in your community. And according to tradition, everybody started to worship San Pascual in order to prevent disease from coming into their village. And San Pascual is the deity that's paraded during the Mexican holiday Day of the Dead. And that celebration occurs throughout Mexico, Guatemala, most of Central America. And it's an amalgam of a saint, a Catholic saint, San Pascual, and the pre-Columbian death god A. He's portrayed as a saint with a robe on. He's also portrayed as a skeleton. And you will see in many parts of the display skeleton figures with robes who are San Pascual. And in the traditional Mayan religion, there are two death gods which are in charge, and they have 10 devils who work with them. And these are the devils that you see also throughout Guatemala on one day when demons run around and are burnt. There's a day in December where the devil is burnt and houses are cleaned and images of the devil are set on fire. This is this death god A is from some Mayan vases. And the skeleton figure is very typical of San Pascual that you can see today during Day of the Dead. So again, we have this Mayan saint that is not found in traditional Catholicism, who's a ruler of the underworld, who actually has the name of a saint, Catholics. Another figure that you'll see in Mayan art is a red person who's not a devil. He's dressed with a hat. He has a lantern in one hand, and in the other hand he carries a doll that looks like him. He is a shaman. The word is also referred to as ahits, which means shaman, healer, holy man. When the Spanish came through, they did not like the shamans, and they asked them to convert to Catholicism. And those who didn't were killed or disappeared, and many of them just basically disappeared into the jungle, carrying an axe, a lantern, and a doll. And that's become the traditional figure of Ajits, the shaman who persists today. And in most Mayan villages, you will find a shaman or a healer who uses traditional medicines and traditional techniques to help people. The Ajits also, or the shaman, is also the communicator to the gods. This is a picture of a shaman, totally in red, and the shaman mask. So when you look at the Catholic belief in a patron saint, what does a patron saint do for you? Why do you ask to pray to or have patron saints in your prayers? Well, they're important. They're in heaven, closer to God than you are. And if you can have them intercede for you in your favor, it is more likely your prayers will be heard. That's the value of a saint in the Catholic religion. Well, Ahits is the patron saint for the 165 Mayan gods, and he intercedes for you. Most Mayans are very, I'd have to say, they know that they need help in whatever they're trying to do. And so they're always asking for other people to intercede for them. And it's part of their customs. Now, you see in Mayan folk art, you see a lot of devils, satans. And in the Catholic, in Christianity, Satan is the name given to fallen, devils are names given to fallen angels. And Lucifer is a fallen angel who laments the loss of his original glory as bright as the morning star. Lucifer is a beautiful name for them. It means morning star. The devil is more prominent in the New Testament than the Old, and he is well described in the New Testament. But devils in the Mayan religion are basically the 10 devils who are below the 2 lords of the underworld. And on December 7th, just before Christmas, the Guatemalans and most Mayans burn the devil. They burn statues of the devil, and they clean their houses. And it relates to the 10 devils who work for the 2 main head gods of the underworld. And these are quite a few images that you will see in this display of devils. Another important aspect of the traditional Mayan religion is the Black Christ. There's a shrine of the Black Christ in Esquipulas. And many miracles have been attributed to have occurred by praying to this Black Christ. And so many Mayans actually make pilgrimages to this church to see the Black Christ, who will help them cure their evils and their illnesses. And this is an example of a Black Christ in a small wooden display, which we call escaparate. And there are several examples of escaparates here. And the ones in Esquipulas have the Black Christ. And the Black Christ is an amalgam of Ikal, which is a pre-Columbian cave-dwelling earth deity. And in January and June, thousands of pilgrims go to the Black Christ and pray. And then they go to a cave where there's a stalagmite, which represents Ikal, the earth owner. He's master of souls. He holds the key to health and wealth. And you have to petition and reward him through prayers and sacrifices. And many Mayans continue to do that today, into this cave where there is a stalagmite. Another example of an amalgam is the Church of San Juan Camula. This is an amalgam of St. John the Baptist and the rain god. So these Indians pray to St. John the Baptist, but they're actually praying to a chak, or a rain god, to have rain for their crops. And in certain areas, especially in Mexico, rain is important because there are many areas of drought. And this is an example of the inside of this church where St. John the Baptist is worshipped as the rain god Chak. You'll see on the walls here as well many dance masks. Dance has become a very important part of the Mayan culture. And the mask is important because it was danced. The mask hasn't been danced, and then the ceremony is not as important. And the Mayans have been dancing for thousands of years. The entire community dances, the kings, the nobles, and everybody else. The dances are held every year in certain towns. And there are many different types of dances. Among the dances, the Spanish wanted them to remember that they were conquered, so there's the dance of the conquest, during which the Mayans dress up as Spaniards and Mayan Indians, and they have a fight, and the Mayans lose, but the Mayans don't really lose. They just stand there and make fun of the Spanish. This is an image of the Mayan dancers with their elaborate costumes and their masks. There's the dance of the deer, which has been going on for thousands of years. Basically, before the Mayans go out and hunt, they do the dance of the deer. There's an analogy to going out and finding a wife as well by going to another community and capturing a bride. And there's also the idea that if you start to shoot the deer disappear, and the other jungle animals get upset, and they always have the Spaniards as the ones who are shooting the deers, and the animals coming in and intimidating the Spaniards. I was supposed to give an introduction, and another gentleman was supposed to talk about dance masks, but he couldn't make it tonight, so I'll have to discuss the masks a little bit. This is a mask that's done in the traditional dance of the deer. It's very elaborate. Before a dance is done, the costumes and the masks are are actually blessed by the local shaman. These masks are very valuable to and important parts of their culture. And the Mayan believe that there is great power in these masks that can be directed either for good or evil. So we want to bless them and maintain their goodness, not make the masks angry. And as we continue to study these dances and traditions, we learn so much more about the Mayan culture. And it's still an active area of study today. So if you have any questions about this brief survey of Mayan culture, I'll try my best to answer them. Yes?
These different images, the crucifixes, who were they made for? Who was the consumer? Would these be on display in a little Indian hat, or were they made for tourists nowadays?
It's a very good question. In Guatemala, you can find indigenous art by uneducated, untrained artists who do their best to create religious art. And that is generally kept in homes of other Indians. Some of the art, and the Mayan artists originally were trained by Spanish artists that came over after the conquest to teach the Mayans fine art. And so some of the art, specifically that large crucifix in the back, was made for a church. So much of the religious art that is finely done, finely carved, was meant to be kept in the church for the whole community. Some of the art, like the escaparate, the small escaparate, were kept in homes where the patron saint of that house was kept and prayed to. Some of the art you'll see was specifically used by shamans themselves in their rituals. And all of the items on that drum, for instance, were from a shaman's workshop. They were actually used to try to help other Mayan Indians. So I hope I answered your question. Yes, Dave.
Is there any significance to the fact that eyelashes are actually what look like hair, whereas hair isn't? It's just part of the women's culture.
Well, it's a good point. We look at a santo, a saint, that's carved out of wood, and we look specifically at the hair on the head, because the hair on the head that is finely carved tends to be old, and the hair on the head that is not finely carved is not very old. Reference the, well, this hair is this santo is probably from the 1930s or earlier, while poorly carved hair, no hair, is more modern. As far as eyelashes are concerned, the finer carvers would actually carve the eyelashes out of wood. And it generally does denote a feminine side to the statue with eyelashes. There was, yes?
Well, my observation is that most of the folk art that we see here has a very strong European Spanish veneer. And I heard what you said, that it's an amalgam of Catholicism and their ancient religions. But it puzzles me that there aren't more icons, so to speak, from some of what we know as being more Mayan, like ancient Mayan. Were those images just eschewed by these people because of the Spanish influence? And was this their way of trying to incorporate their core beliefs with Catholicism, and so they use Spanish, European style images? But I'm kind of, thinking about that and want your response.
Very good. Well, something that is 1,000 years old, like a stone that has been worshipped, is best left where it is so it can continue to be used in religious ceremonies. In fact, it would be illegal to remove that stone from Guatemala. And thus you would not have it, I could not possibly have it here. Like any other pre-Columbian art. It's part of the Guatemalan national patrimony. The European, when it comes to santos, saints, there are really three kinds of saints in general. There's the icons. In other words, Saint Michael is always depicted with a sword, and his foot sometimes is on a snake or the devil, and he has slain the devil, and that's how he's depicted. And in the earliest Saint Michaels that were carved, they all look alike. They have the exact same stance. It's an icon. It's not meant to look human. And those are the earlier European carvings, and you'll see that also in the southwestern United States. As the Renaissance came through, people said, well, we want our saints to look more human. And because it was the Renaissance, they started to carve saints that look like people, like the Christ in the back. And then that was done for quite a while. And then there's what we call neoclassical, which is sort of like this St. Anthony. Even though he has the traditional posture, the colors there are quite unusual and modern. So all of Catholicism is European. It came on boats to Central America and imposed upon the people who were happy to combine it with their traditional art. So we see an amalgam of things, and things that really don't appear in Europe, like San Pasquale. And this is a picture, by the way, of a couple who are in, not quite in heaven, and they're not in heaven. They're in that place in between, which, purgatory. And that's what these are. These are flames. So it is a Mayan Indian picture of what purgatory looks like. And that's their concept, and these are quite charming.
You know, I noticed that, and what you're saying is really, I mean, it clarifies it. However, I'm thinking that maybe there's a universality in all of this, because that reminds me, in some strange way, of Piranha Scotch, you know, like its figures, and, you know, writing.
Great minds think alike. Larry West.
With the modern world, the Mayans on at all more towards Catholicism or more towards all other? And the second part of my question is, are they aware of Pope? Is there anything affecting about who the new Pope is? Does it mean anything at all?
It's hard for me to answer that because I'm not a Mayan and I'm not a Catholic. But they have great respect for Catholic religion. Great respect. Everybody is a Catholic. And they'll go to church on Sunday. And how they truly believe in their heart of hearts, I can't answer that, to be honest. But they do look Catholic.
Anybody else?
When you're wandering around and looking at the items here, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them if I can. I'll hang out here for a little bit. I'm glad nobody asked me about this because I have no idea.
That's a she-devil. That one's a she-devil. It is. Look closely. Thank you, everybody. And please enjoy all the shows tonight. Thank you so much, Dr. Drapkin.